Have you ever wondered which country is the most corrupt in the world? It's a question that gets thrown around a lot, often pointing fingers at developing nations. But what if I told you the answer isn't that simple? What if the very definition of corruption we use is flawed, designed to overlook the biggest players? Today, we're diving deep into a topic that might just change how you see the world. We're going to challenge the common narrative and ask a controversial question. Could the most corrupt country actually be one of the world's wealthiest? First, let's look at how corruption is usually measured. The most famous one is the Corruption Perception Index, or CPI, from Transparency International. It ranks countries based on how corrupt their public sector is perceived to be by experts and business people. According to the latest index, countries like Somalia, Syria, South Sudan, and Venezuela are at the very bottom, labeled as the most corrupt. On the other end, Denmark, Finland, and New Zealand are seen as the cleanest. Case closed, right? Not so fast. The big problem with the CPI is in its name. It's a perception index. It measures what people think, not necessarily the hard reality. It focuses almost exclusively on public sector bribery in everyday life, like paying off a police officer or a government official for a permit. This is what we call petty corruption. While it's definitely a problem that makes life difficult for ordinary citizens, it's only a small piece of a much larger puzzle. This index completely misses what some experts call grand corruption or systemic corruption. This is the kind of corruption that is woven into the very fabric of the legal and financial systems of powerful, wealthy nations. It's not about a brown envelope of cash. It's about sophisticated, legal but unethical maneuvers that transfer enormous wealth from the many to the few. Think about it. Which is more damaging? A $10 bribe to a local official or a multi-billion-dollar corporation using legal loopholes created by lobbyists they funded to pay zero taxes. This is where things get really interesting. Many of the cleanest countries on the CPI are, ironically, the biggest enablers of global corruption. They are the world's top destinations for illicit financial flows. Think about tax havens. Places like Switzerland, Luxembourg, Singapore, and even certain states in the US like Delaware and South Dakota have banking secrecy laws and create anonymous shell companies that allow corrupt leaders and criminals from all over the world to hide their stolen money. A dictator from a country at the bottom of the CPI might steal millions from their people, but where do they park that money? Not in their own country's unstable banks. They channel it through a complex web of shell corporations and offshore accounts, often ending up in London real estate, Swiss bank accounts, or anonymous trusts in the United States. The financial institutions and legal firms in these clean countries facilitate this entire process, earning massive fees along the way. They are the getaway drivers for the world's biggest heists. So, while the country the money was stolen from gets a terrible corruption score, the country that knowingly helps hide the money gets a great score. Does that seem right to you? This is a massive blind spot. It's like blaming the person who got robbed for having their wallet stolen, while giving a medal to the person who helped the robber launder the money. Let's talk about the United States, for example. The US often ranks fairly well on the CPI, usually in the top 25. But according to the Tax Justice Network's Financial Secrecy Index, the US is one of the world's biggest tax havens. It's incredibly easy to set up an anonymous shell company in states like Delaware, Nevada, or Wyoming. You need less personal information to create a company that can hold billions of dollars than you do to get a library card. These anonymous companies are perfect vehicles for money laundering, tax evasion, and hiding assets. So, powerful individuals from around the globe can anonymously buy up property, influence politics, and hide their wealth right inside the US financial system. The scale of this is staggering. We're talking trillions of dollars in illicit funds flowing through these so-called developed economies. This isn't just about some distant dictator, it affects everyone. When corporations and the super rich use these systems to avoid taxes, it means less money for public services like schools, healthcare, and infrastructure for the rest of us. And there's the issue of lobbying. In many countries, a company giving money to a politician to influence a law would be called what it is, a bribe. In the United States and many other Western countries, it's called lobbying, and it's perfectly legal. Industries spend billions of dollars every year to influence legislation in their favor. The pharmaceutical industry lobbies to keep drug prices high. The fossil fuel industry lobbies for subsidies and to block climate action. The financial industry lobbies to weaken regulations that were put in place to prevent another economic crash. Is this not a form of systemic corruption? It's a system where wealth directly translates into political power, allowing the rich to literally write the rules in their own favor, often at the expense of the general public. It's a corruption of the democratic process itself. Yet, because it's legal, it doesn't show up in the standard corruption perception surveys. It's hidden in plain sight. Let's take another example. The United Kingdom, especially the City of London. London is a global hub for finance, but it's also been called the money laundering capital of the world. A huge amount of global dirty money flows through UK banks and its overseas territories like the British Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands, which are notorious tax havens. Russian oligarchs, African kleptocrats, you name it, they've used London's property market and financial services to clean their illicit cash. The UK government has talked tough on this, but the systems that allow it to happen are still very much in place because they are incredibly profitable for a powerful financial elite. Again, the UK has a good CPI score, but it's a key player in a global system that drains wealth from poorer nations. So if we were to create a new index, let's call it the Global Corruption Enablement Index, who would be at the top? It wouldn't be Somalia or Syria. It would likely be the United States, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and other major financial centers. These are the countries that provide the legal and financial infrastructure for global corruption to thrive. The real corruption isn't just about a greedy official in a poor country. It's a global system with two sides, the takers and the enablers. And right now, we only seem to focus on and punish the takers, while the enablers, who profit immensely, are praised for their clean governance. This is not to say that petty bribery and public sector corruption in developing countries are serious problems. They absolutely are, and they make life miserable for millions. But to ignore the role of wealthy nations is to miss the forest for the trees. It is a convenient narrative that allows the world's most powerful economies to avoid scrutiny and maintain a system that benefits them enormously. So, what is the most corrupt country in the world? There's no single answer. But if you define corruption as a system that allows the powerful and wealthy to rig the rules for their own benefit, to drain wealth from the public and to operate above the law, then you have to look beyond the usual suspects. You have to look at the global financial centers, the tax havens, and the countries whose legal systems are for sale to the highest bidder. The next time you see a list of the most corrupt countries, ask yourself, who is being left off that list? Who is enabling and profiting from that corruption? The picture is far more complex and far more disturbing than we're often led to believe. It challenges us to rethink what corruption really is and who the real culprits are on the global stage. It's a conversation we need to have if we're serious about creating a fairer, more transparent world for everyone. Thank you so much for watching. This is a complex topic, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think? How should we measure corruption? Let's get a discussion going. And if you found this video thought-provoking, please hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. See you in the next one.